Well, I think there are many levels of oneself, you know. I can tell you I'm Marcos, a Brazilian that was born in 1988, that went to a public school and have studied, being in the construction industry for a while. But that's not really who I am, is it? There is the psychological me as well, which is the me that has gone through all the experiences in my life and that has built up this idea of being me. And there is this other me that I think I feel is much more true to myself, which is this poor, only I think awareness of everything, as we have experienced today during the meditation and the explanations from the Lama. So yeah, I can tell you who I am and not, but it's hard for me to tell you who I am. I am not Marcos, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a Brazilian, But to say who I am, it gets quiet, silence, and yeah. So my childhood was quite interesting. When I was born, to start with, I'm a twin, and when I was about to be born, me and my brother, we had no food, no clothes to come out of a hospital from an extremely poor family in Brazil, and I never knew, and I don't know my father. And when he figured out that my mother was pregnant, he just disappeared. So the struggles were always there: financial, lack of support, psychological support, financial support. But when we were about to be born, I think a week prior to the date, the local radio made a campaign, and on the day of my birth and my brother's birth, two ladies came in and with a bunch of food and clothes, and one of them really never left me and my brother. She looked after us, and she was really the one that I taught us about love, kindness, and showed us that there is another way of living. Was quite confusing, my childhood, because I would be, I spent most of my time as a kid with my biological mom, but I spent also quite a lot of time with this lady, which was my mom, really. She was my mom. And yeah, whenever I was with my biological mom, there was lots of struggles, lots of suffering, There was no affection, really. There was a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of stress. There never was enough food. Many times there was no food, there was no power. So very poor, in all means, whenever we were with her. And I'm sure she had her own, I think she did her best, despite of all the negativity and all the lack of love and understanding that a kid need, So yeah, was a hard childhood, but I also had the other side of it, and whenever I was with my forest mom, there would be love, there would be laugh, jokes and play, and she was just this beautiful human all she did was to help people, help others, and she was a quite spiritual person as well. She was a medium, So she always taught us, me and my brother, and by example, really, how to be grateful, and always she would always say, pray and be thankful, grateful for whatever you have. You're having, a nice food today, so say thank you. You're having milk, so say thank you. You're having a bed to sleep, so say thank you. And I grow up with that, and it's so powerful, you take it as, one maybe can take it as something that is irrational, or there is no much power on it, but just by saying thank you, and for very simple things. I have a food today. I had a beautiful food today. I'm not hungry, because there's a lot of people that are hungry, and I have experienced hungriness myself. I've been hungry, open the fridge and have nothing to eat, waking up in the morning and having nothing to eat, and it's not nice. Can be quite frustrating, and I think you really start to understand how some people behave in this world, and it's not an easy position to be when your tummy is complaining, and you can do crazy things just because you're hungry. So many people are hungry, and we are hungry not only of food, many people are hungry of love, many people are hungry of peace. They have no peace, they have no love, they have no understanding, and from this place all the misunderstandings and all the violence come. So yeah, but I was reasonably, I was a sad kid. I was sad, but I was also happy many times, So I think I was more happy when I was with my first mom, because I had more comfort, nicer food. She could come and before you sleep and say good night, and my mother never did that, My mother never hugged me. My mother never said I love you. Never heard her she saying that. So it is quite amazing how those little things really shaped what a human is, just for not having love. And many people do not have love, never had, and that's why we have so many violent people. So I think that's why, compassion comes from understanding of that whoever is causing suffering is just someone that didn't have love enough, didn't have, maybe he had no option, of no one ever gave anything, no affection, no attention. So yeah. I think spirituality is everything. I think spirituality is what we are, spiritual beings, I don't see anything that is not spiritual. Every single thing happens in a spiritual level before, So I think spirituality is the willingness of understanding who we are, what is to be a human being. Why am I here really, I think those are the most profound spiritual questions. I think that's the spirituality for me, to know who we are. Formal meditation, I started, I think, when I was about 19, but I look to my childhood many times, and I see that I was always, in a way, a meditator, a practitioner. I would love I always spent so much time by myself as a kid, very young age, and I would just love to be alone, to be in silence. Yeah, sometimes I could not understand what was happening to me, but I knew something was there. It's just as if there was someone guiding me many times. And everything would be quite meditative for me. I remember one day I was 6 years old, and being very poor, didn't have much toys to play with. So I remember myself, I was sitting on the ground outside, and I had a bottle of water, and I had water inside, and I had in the other hand, one hand I had a bottle of water, the other hand I had a bit of sand. So I'm sitting on the ground, and I'm playing with aunties, and I would blow them and throw some sand and water, and in my mind I'm creating this enormous storm for them, and being this crazy catastrophic thing going on, and I could see those aunties running crazy because they didn't know what was happening. And I'm looking to that, and for instant, it's just like if I came out of my body, and I'm looking the situation, and then I think, if those aunties doesn't know what is happening, and I'm here very big, and just throwing those things, and then I looked up to the sky, and then I asked myself, how do I know that there is someone doing just the same that I'm doing for those ants? And I was mad. I was in such a profound crisis. I was in this huge crisis of not knowing what reality was. I could not trust anything. How do I know that this is real? Maybe there is someone that is so big like me, for those ants, that is making things to happen and making me believe that that's what is happening. But it's not, it's just someone playing with me. So I could not believe in anything, It was so, wow, and I was 6 years old. So I always had these big questions, I think, about reality, mainly. And of course it came a lot from, being a Brazilian, and it's such a religious country, and mainly Christianity is everywhere there, and the Catholicism, and growing up mainly from my first mom, always saying God is good, and I would look to my life, and because when I was away from my biological mom, there was so much suffering, so much was just so much misery and humiliation, seeing my colleagues from school having nicer clothes, having a father, having nicer food, and I would think, okay, but what kind of a God is it? Why did I do to God to live such a miserable life? So I think these questions came from this really willingness to know why now there is something in there. Oh, God is not a nice guy, as they say. There's something else. Why am I here? Why I was born in this family? Why wasn't I born why am I not just the son of my first mom? Everything would be so nice. I would have a nice food, clean clothes, and have a completely different life. So I think meditation started for me in a very young age. But it was really when my first mom died, when I was 18, that I then, because she was everything for me, and then she was gone, and there was nothing there, I could not go anywhere. Now I was alone, really. So, and then on the night that she died in my arms, I went to her bookshelf, and then I got 2 books from the bookshelf. And one book is from a French philosopher called Leon Denis. The book that I read from him, that I took from my mom on the night that she died, is a book called Here and After. That's the title in English. I like the translation in Portuguese. It's beautiful. It's Depois da morte, means literally in English, after death. And that was the perfect book to read after she died, right? But I could not read the book because she died on a Sunday, and the following weekend, I went to my first rave. I was just so lost, and so I had acid and ecstasy, and I forgot that she's died. Everything was so nice, and then I had 2 years of my life heavily doing drugs, which was also beautiful, was a beautiful part of my life. I met so many amazing people, and I was always an explorer as well, you know. So my friends, if you talk to them, they will tell you many times I would just disappear in the middle of the party because I would hide myself, because there was so much going on in my mind that I just needed to have space and to see, you know. I didn't want to talk to much people. I just wanted to watch what I was doing, what my mind was doing. How is that possible? What is really going on? So it was a very interesting time, and was only 2 years later that I read the book. So Here and After, by Leon Denis, and that book just transformed myself completely, you know. I think that book just put a logic, the words, the system, the method of what I always somehow knew that was there, that existed, and it's just this very logic and scientific based explanation of reality in a level of reality, right? So basically it explores the interaction with spirits, with minds that do not have a body anymore, and how that works, you know. Are we influenced by them? Can we communicate with them? Is that a real thing? So that book explains that, and it was fascinating, you know. So when I started to read that book, I just realized that spiritual life has started for me. So that was my first formal practice, I would say. It was, and it was quite a thing, you know. And before actually reading the book, I have moved to another city, and I've met some people. So I was working construction industry, and we were building a bridge and roads, and our accommodation was very close to a very poor area in a big city, second biggest city in my state, Rio Grande do Sul, very south in Brazil. And you know, I was still doing drugs at the time. I was doing lots of coke, and I met this guy, and he was a nice guy, but he was just like doing coke every day, and very soon I was doing coke every day after work with him, and just because it was for free, you know. I always did a lot of drugs for 2 years, 18 to 20. But I always worked. I never had problems with, you know, needing to sell something or steal something to do drugs. I just like to do in the weekends. I did lots. But at this specific time when I met these people, I would go to this after work with this guy to another guy's house, which was a much older guy. He was probably 45, and I am 18 and a half, 19. and this guy that I go with is about maybe 20, and was a junkyard, very very interesting place. So it was in a corner of a very the main road on that poor area, and yeah, full of old cars everywhere. And then this guy could come and we sit in a table like that, and the coke will be there for free, and the guns would be there as well. And he was just using us to protect the place for him, because he was from a gang, and he has a split with the gang, so he had this paranoia, or that was true, I don't know, that the gang members would at any time come and take his house and take whatever. So he would give coke for us and the guns, so we could be there as his soldiers. And yeah, it was, I don't know if you ever have done drugs, but coke is one of the drugs that really wow, changes quite a lot of stuff in your body. The chemistry goes quite differently, and you do feel that you can do so much, and you see everything is, you just have this capacity of being more accurate, and a lot of if you are an angry person, you can be dangerous. And yeah, I would tell you, was quite interesting to be having a gun, and because I never really was into it, so it was crazy. But the most interesting thing of this time is that one day we're there doing the normal thing that we did every evenings, doing coke and talking, and this guy comes and say, one day I got a letter from an angel. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? That's bullshit. No, once I got a letter from an angel. And I said, man, what are you talking about? There is no such thing as angels, I was always very skeptical. Yeah, and I have experienced so many, and seen from my mom, that she was a medium, so I was aware of those things. But an angel writing a letter, why the angel just doesn't come and talk to him? Why the angel needs to send a letter? That just sounded so ridiculous for me. So this guy comes, and I'll show you the letter. I said, please show me, I want to see this letter. So he sent me the letter, and it was just a normal letter, normal pen, normal paper. And I said, okay, yeah, okay. It was beautiful things written there. And he said, you don't believe? I said, I don't believe. And he said, okay, I will take you to the place that this angel wrote this letter for me. And I said, okay, I'm king, take me there. So one day we're there, and he said, okay, we're not doing coke today. I just call a taxi, and we're gonna go to this place. And what is this place? Is a house. It's not a church, because it's quite different from church. But it's a spiritism house, where you go to learn about spiritism and to practice spiritism. And so I get to this place with him. I am, candles and my shorts, and I get in there, and I see it's about maybe 50 people in a big, room. Everyone's sitting, everyone quite well dressed, and this very calm music playing, and I'm looking around, and I start to, I get quite anxious, and it starts to really feel very uncomfortable, and then, and these thoughts and these voices come, wow, what are you doing here? And look to you, you don't even dress too well to be here. Who are you? And this thing is becoming more strong, and I'm actually now literally listening, hearing voices, and I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So someone comes, do a bit of a talk, very calm, beautiful, and then after the talk, the speech, we go to a next room, And in this room, the lights are very low, and there is a bunch of people, standing up. And I've been in these places before with my first mom as a very young kid. But something was different that night. And they get in that room, and I have these people, doing that and giving me, energy stuff. And outside, I don't know how I was looking, but inside I was jumping, I was screaming, I was just completely mad. I just was completely lost, and I barely can breathe. I'm almost passing out, and the thing is finished, and I struggle, but I managed to stand up and walk out of the room. But then I just kind of do not control my body anymore, and those voices are so strong, and I'm kind of going blind. It's just crazy. And then I'm walking, and then the guys that were with me, they went to rush to go outside and go home, and I went left because I needed to talk to someone, I needed to see something. And I'm walking in this corridor, and then at the end of the corridor I see this man, and he goes, what is happening? And I say, I'm not good, I don't know what's happening. Okay, come here. And then they take me to a smaller room, and there are 3 people sitting in chairs. One guy it's standing up, and they put me kind of in the middle. And at this stage I'm starting to cry. I'm feeling pain. I'm just having a panic attack. That's what was happening. And the guy talks to me. What is happening? What do you want to talk? What's going on with you? And then when I have the minimal conditions of start to talk, when I'm going to open my mouth, one of the 3 guys sitting in the chair starts to talk before the words coming out of my mouth. And I say, oh, that person is saying what I was about to say. And the guy says, okay, just now concentrate on that person then. And then that guy starts to talk, to say everything that I want to say. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So after that night, I realized that, okay, I needed to really pay attention more to those things. Something is really happening, whoa, okay, enough. So that's when I moved the area where I was living. I'm not hanging out with those guys anymore, and that's when I read the book. And then I found myself being a medium as well. So I started, and then I go deeper, So I was 2 years doing lots of drugs, sex and rock and roll and all this, which is totally okay, There is nothing wrong with that, if you really don't put a weight on it, if you're not harming anybody, if you're doing it to find yourself. It is all, spirituality is in everything. I believe in that. So I read the book, and from being, and then I went to just the very opposite after that, reading the book, and I just stopped all drugs. I didn't do any drugs, didn't drink alcohol, didn't have sex for 3 years. All I did was to practice spirituality, and it was just so beautiful. That was the most beautiful time of my life, Nothing really matters. All I want to do is to be alone and helping people, and going outside, going to hospitals, going to orphanages, and helping my family, my biological family. And that was really my life. Everything I was doing was to help them out. And I had the most incredible times, I've come across incredible beings, beautiful beings, amazing spiritual masters, amazing spiritual friends which are with me to the date, and have taught me so much. So that was the first formal spiritual practice that I've done. You know, spiritism, beautiful. If you don't know what it is, you know, it's such an amazing doctrine, beautiful, very logic, very close to Buddhism. And I think that's why migrate to Buddhism after several years of doing spiritism was so easy for me. Was maybe 7 years later that I came to Buddhism and met a master, and then again really, you know, put all my time on it, pretty much all weekends, all holidays, and went to live in a Buddhist monastery for a while in Brazil. So Vipassana is one of the techniques, one of the meditation practices that Buddha taught, and in some traditions it is believed that that was the technique that Buddha was practicing when he got enlightened. So Vipassana, in simple words, and it is quite simple, I think, is mindfulness, is being aware of everything that is happening to the body and to the mind. You don't interact too much with what is happening to the body, to the mind, and to the emotions either. You know, you just watch. You just be there, quiet, in silence, and let everything happen. You know, and everything will happen. And you just do not interact with it. You don't push anything that you don't like, and you don't pull anything that you like. You know, so you have no preference. You just there to watch whatever is happening is happening. I think that is, the fundamentals of Vipassana, I think. You see, I think I've done many retreats before Vipassana, before the first 10 days Vipassana, in different traditions. You know, I've done Spiritism retreats, I've done Vajrayana retreats, Tibetan Buddhism. I've done quite a few Advaita Vedanta retreats, and they're all different in their own aspects, you know, their own way of interpretation of what is to be and what you should do, and but I think the most profound thing, the most profound teaching is silence, is being silent, just being quiet and watching what is happening. And from this watching, you are bound to some time to look back. You know, that's a little bit of a paradoxical way of saying it. You know, it's not that you look back to you, but you relax your attention from, you know, objects and things, and you will ask, you know, okay, so who am I among those things? And I think Vipassana gives you this field, this foundation of being aware of this very intimate question, you know, about who am I, what really am I. So what has changed to me? Not much. I don't think I have changed much after Vipassana, but and that's, you know, of course, Marcos and, you know, things change, but I think Vipassana really you really explore something that doesn't change, and something that is beyond all, movements, and that thing doesn't seem to improve, to change, it seems that it's already complete. It's already, you have no need for change, no need for anything. You see, I think when we say can we remember, we always need to start from the start, right? So who am I asking? If I'm asking Marcos, I'll tell you I came from Osório, a very small town from the south of Brazil. Was born in a very poor family, and that's where I'm from. And you say, okay, but before Marcos, there is other lives maybe. So where were you before that? Oh, before that, I pretty sure I was in France. I was living there. I was a woman. I wasn't a man. I enjoyed that very much, and we had okay, and before that, and before. So I think it's an endless search, to find out what is the beginning, because this is, the mind is never ends, it's just changes. It's just always changing. Okay, now I'm that. Okay, before I was that, and then blah, 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 and something is, between these changes and those places, and there is something that thing, there is no beginning and no end for that thing. It's crazy, You gotta be a bit crazy, I think, you gotta go a bit crazy to see these things, because we take this as being, reality and insanity, but I don't think it is at all. I think, it's quite actually healthy to be a bit crazy and just deeply ask what am I really, because you can, I had so many lives, and before that, and then I was in a animal home, and then I was a plant, and then I was a mineral, and then I was just dancing as an atom in this space, and okay, it's quite beautiful, and I enjoy that very much too. It's quite romantic, and it's nice, poetic, but where it's gonna take us, I don't know. So if you ask, there is a way, many people remember their past lives. I come across many people, that they really knew, and I had the experience of remember one or two, but it really doesn't matter, I just find a way more interesting to put my time and attention on this that I am before those plays, before all those characters, and Well, again, I think it's a matter of how we see spirituality. If you see spirituality something other than this now, then we always have a conflict. It's not easy, Whenever we take the shape of being someone that is in a path, and you improving, and you have all those levels and the states, and it's really another ego trip. I think can be and can be quite a beautiful one. But I think one thing that we definitely my experience that I needed, I look up every day is, it's for example my work, how do I express myself at work, and how can I be, of light for myself, living in this condition of having a male body and being a man and having all those desires and all those needs, and still being of light for myself, remembering myself that that's not all there is, I think that's enough. Whenever I'm aware of this, that it's not all there is, that's actually just a very, it's just a fragment of which really is out there and of what I am. That's just not what I am, and that's enough, I think. So I from my experience, whenever I act from this place, everything is fine. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.